Welcome to Tales from the Fandom, a podcast that brings a special guest out of the multiverse and straight to you. And now your host, David Ginsburg.
Hey everybody, welcome to the latest episode of Tales from the Fandom. I am glad that you are here. We are less than 1 month away from Women in Tabletop Gaming Month during the month of June. I am super excited for you to get to listen to over 30 episodes of content, one each day at the very least. Sometimes we're going to have 2 episodes releasing on the same day because we have that much content out there. I'm super excited. And not only are we going to have podcast episodes, but we will be having featured blog posts of people I could not get to record with. And so you can go to womenintabletopgaming.com and check out the blog section once June starts rolling in, and you will be able to find some wonderful people that submitted answers to a wonderful long questionnaire of questions about tabletop role-playing, and hopefully you can check them out, as well as checking out all of our partners who have partnered with us for this project as they release their specific content geared towards women in tabletop gaming, along with several stores online that are offering codes and discounts for the entire month of June to also back this project up. I am so thankful for everyone who's getting involved in this, and I can only say thank you to everyone who's given up their time and energy to do this. So thank you again. And now check out this episode with Kim and check out her podcast that she's a part of, the Chaotic Goodness Podcast. Thank you so much for listening and sticking with us.
I'm sorry, guys. We got to jump it. I'm sorry.
What do you do? What do you mean jump
You're
it?
going to do a wild jump? You're going to kill us all.
I don't have a choice.
Oh,
I'm
no,
sorry.
this isn't good.
You know what happened last time?
We're not. I got to go. Sorry. Hold on.
Guys, we're taking fire.
Land is near a hospital.
Hold on.
Like what you hear? This is a small sample of the action and excitement that await you every Monday on the Chaotic Goodness Podcast. Download us on your favorite podcast app and join us for space opera, action, adventure, and lots of console cleaning. Let the chaos begin.
And welcome to another episode of Tales from the Fandom. Today I am joined by yet another person that I got to meet and interact with on the Twitterverse, as well as on a special Facebook group for actual play podcasters. And I am joined by Kim of the Chaotic Goodness Podcast. Welcome to Tales from the Fandom.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
It is absolutely my pleasure. I know that we share a lot of the same fandoms. You sent over probably one of the largest lists of fandoms that if I wanted to, I could have a year of just you on talking about everything that you love.
Probably. Yeah, I do love all the things.
And that is not a bad thing either.
Not at all. It's good to have some passion, right?
It is. It's good to, and it's not only like you're focused on a certain section, but you're all over the place. Like, and I want to say this. I want to say this before we jump into some of the ones that we're going to talk about, because there's one that showed up on your list, and I was like, oh my gosh, someone remembers it besides me, and that's Alien Nation. Like,
Oh my
I loved
gosh.
Alien Nation as a kid.
That totally needs a reboot. It was so before its time and so genius, and the character development was amazing. I love that show.
God, I used to, like, that was during the time of obviously like VCRs and stuff, and
Yes.
there would be times where I tape it or I try to, but it's
Uh-huh.
that show that kind of moves around. I could never like find it unless they're having like a marathon, and then I'd catch a few episodes
Right?
and be like, yeah, this is good.
Oh, it was so good. So good. I was very disappointed when that one went off the air.
Yeah, Alien Nation definitely is a show that if you're going to pull some shows from that time period, Alien Nation needs some love.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. I would love to see like a cinematic reboot. I don't know, something along the lines of what they've been doing with the new Star Trek. You know, how they've really like beefed it up and increased the character backstories and just made it really big and bold. I think it could totally go there.
You know what interested me is that new Netflix movie that they did called Bright, where it's like
Yes.
humans and orcs. And I was like, wait a minute, that's Alien Nation, but fantasy
A
characters.
little bit, yeah. It's interesting. It was kind of Shadowrun-y, but
Mhm.
not. It was more current modern times instead of what is it, 75 or so years in the future where Shadowrun starts. So that was really interesting. I was enjoying that.
Yeah, I've yet to see it as when we record this, but I do have it on my list of things to watch, and I already heard that they're going to make a sequel to it, so we'll see.
It's good. It's well written. It's not spoon fed. You know how some shows in the beginning, like in the pilot, they throw in those lines that are like that a character will say 2 or 3 sentences and it's very stilted and obvious that they're like establishing backstory.
Mhm.
And where Bright, on the other hand, is not. It's they throw you right into the action and you're following right along with the characters. And I love that.
And that's something that I think some TV shows or even movies, they just need to do that. Like,
Agreed.
don't give me like that exposition that's going to feel that way. Just lean into it and let me
Exactly.
pick it up as we go along.
Agreed.
Now, the first fandom that I'd love to talk to you about is one that I've only seen a handful of episodes. I can probably count the episodes on maybe one hand and then a few on the other hand. And that is the TV series that will never die because apparently it is immortal, and that is Supernatural.
Oh, Supernatural. I love me some Supernatural. That is a great series.
Now, did you get into it at the beginning, or did you pick it up like along the way?
I picked it up along the way, interestingly enough. I have no idea how it was completely off of my radar for so many years. Interestingly, so my cousin had a baby a couple years ago, and she named him Castiel. And I thought, well, what is that all about? How could you possibly love a show so much that you would name your kid, Castiel of all things, And so I thought, well, shoot, okay, I guess I'll watch it then. And that was the end of that. Then I had no more social life, no more time for anything. It was just Supernatural back to back to back to back. Like I'd be in the kitchen cooking dinner with like Supernatural playing on my iPad right next to me. It became an obsession.
That's
and
awesome.
Now I'm finally caught up and waiting to watch the next episode.
Oh my goodness. And speaking of naming kids after characters on TV shows, I have a Xander and a Willow. So
nice. I have my youngest daughter's middle name is Rose.
Okay.
So yeah, after Rose Tyler.
Awesome. Now, as far as Supernatural goes, what drew you to the show?
I really like it's for me everything comes down to character development and story. The characters are so well done and so consistently written, and I like the dynamics between the two brothers and between the satellite characters and them. I like the balance of comedy to serious plot and storyline, and like 90% of the episodes I think are just phenomenal. There's a couple in there that I just kind of scratch my head like, really? What is this about? Okay. But I like what they did with it, and each season just kept me on my toes. Especially right there in the middle, like 6, 7, and 8. That was pretty intense. And I really love the satellite characters. I adore them. I love Crowley and Castiel, and Chuck. Good old Chuck. And Charlie. Oh my gosh, who wouldn't love Charlie? So yeah, I mean, I could go on and on and on.
That is the entry point for me watching Supernatural, and those are the only episodes I ever watched were episodes that had Charlie in them, and that's it.
Oh yeah? Well, I mean, that's certainly worthwhile. Felicia's fantastic.
She is, and I did get spoiled on like the last episode that Charlie was in, so I never watched it. I was like, nope, not watching it.
You watched her last episode? Oh
no,
my
I
gosh.
refuse. I refuse to watch the last episode.
Oh, you didn't? Oh, yeah, that's understandable. It's
Charlie
rough,
is still
man.
alive. Charlie is still alive for me.
Yes, she is. She is. Yeah, that would have been horrible to watch that one first. Oh my goodness.
Oh no, I started with her first appearance, and I made my way through only the Charlie episodes, and then as she started like showing up like near the end, I was like, oh no, and then I got spoiled. I was like, nope, don't need to watch it. I'm good.
Yeah, that was a really tough episode, and I've actually corrupted a few of my friends. I mean, I made it my life purpose at the time to do so, but I was successful. And so, so they were going through and watching the episodes and catching up with me, and they would send me messages like, "Oh my gosh, why didn't you warn me about this character or that character?" I'm like, "I can't. I'm sorry." And especially Charlie. I mean, that was a hard one. That was a really hard one. The writers are cruel, man.
Yes.
I think they've been taking lessons from George R.R. Yeah.
Now, do you have a favorite character, like, or is it too tough to ask you that question with a show like this?
I'm definitely a Dean girl. Definitely a Dean girl. Although Cass and Crowley are close seconds. Sorry, Sam. Sorry, Sam. You're too whiny. Why don't you want to talk about your feelings, Dean? Sam, leave him alone.
Oh my goodness. Now, like for me, I haven't seen Supernatural besides those handful of episodes, and I see it on Netflix. I'm like, man, that's a lot of investment.
Do it. I'm the little devil on your shoulder. Do it.
Would I need to start at season 1? Is that a must?
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely start at season 1. I can't even talk. Season 1. It's the pilot and the first couple episodes are just a tad spoon feedy, but they get past that really fast. And they pick up and then the excitement and the tension really builds as you go along with the season, and you can tell that as they were going along and they realized they were going to be picked up for a while, that the writers really started to like get into it and bite off big meaty chunks of plot to feed us, and it really picks up pretty quickly.
Awesome. I'm excited. It's like the one show where I'm always like, well, if I don't have any other shows to watch, maybe I could watch it. But then at the same time, I don't want to be stuck on Supernatural for like the next 6 months trying to like binge them all.
You should do it. Get yourself an iPad. Carry it around the house with you.
I was going to say, what's the like the draw or the appeal for that show for you?
The characters, the relationship between the characters, and how they manage everything that's thrown on them, because they're basically the heroes of the world, and they really don't want to be, but there's no one else to do it, and so they just kind of suck it up and do it. And so they're trying to quite literally save the world, and they're dealing with their own backstory and drama because their childhood wasn't exactly ideal. It's really great how all of that plays out with all of the different characters and what they're doing. And I can't tell you too much because I know you're going to watch it.
One day.
It'll happen. And then you'll be getting back to me and you'll be going, oh my gosh, what have you done?
Now, do you think Supernatural is ever going to end?
They said that this season is going to be the last, and they made a whole big deal about stopping on a specific show number. And then I saw another rumor recently that they got picked up for another season. So I don't even know what's true anymore. I'm just going to pray a lot that they keep going. And then there's a new spinoff that's coming with the ladies of the show. So that should be interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with that.
Oh, I hadn't even heard about that.
Mm-hmm.
Is it going to be like similar in vein to what Supernatural is right now with what Sam and Dean do?
It would appear so. There is a police officer in the show, and she has kind of taken on a lot of the sort of orphans that have been the victims of some of the chaos of the monsters and the demons and such. And so that's where they're taking that. It'll be their adventures and likely misadventures as well.
Oh, very cool.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll just add even more seasons, and then they can sell like an
Yeah.
epic supernatural box set of goodness or something.
Yeah, I would be first in line.
Now, on top of Supernatural, one of the other big fandoms that are super into and you want to talk about is one that I've never heard of at all.
Oh
And
no. I'm glad I
it's
could
called
fix that for you.
exactly. Like that's one of the fun things about doing this podcast is I get to learn so much new shows and new movies and anime and all sorts of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But this one is called The Last Kingdom.
It is indeed.
Now,
It
help me out because I don't. What is The Last Kingdom?
The Last Kingdom is based on Bernard Cornwell's Saxon series, and it's about the Danish invasion of England before it was England, and how the Last Kingdom, which is Alfred's kingdom, fights back against the Danes. And the main character is called Uhtred. And Uhtred was born a Saxon and a noble at that. And he is affected by the invasion. And he ends up essentially getting kidnapped and then adopted by the Danes. And so he is, and he's orphaned as well. So he ends up being quite literally trapped in between two worlds because his life's purpose is to regain his title and once again be the Lord of Bebbanburg, which is where he comes from. And so he is, going through his life trying to make the choices that will lead him back to reclaiming his Bebbanburg. And it is really phenomenal. And part of what draws me to it is that I am an adoptee and I fully understand what it feels like to be trapped in between two worlds and not quite fit in with either one. And so Bernard Cornwell does an outstanding job of writing that inner dilemma. And it's really great to watch on screen as well as read. The books are amazing too.
So it was a book series first, then turned into a TV show. I imagine.
Correct.
Okay.
And I plowed through the TV series, and then picked up the books. And what I love the most about the writing for the TV series is that they really, really capture Uhtred's inner voice. Because as I'm reading the book series, I can hear him in my head. And the books are written the way that Uhtred thinks and speaks. And it translated beautifully to the TV show. They're doing an excellent job.
And where does this TV show exist?
It's on Netflix, and it was done by BBC, and Netflix picked it up.
Oh, okay.
And I've heard rumors that they're filming season 3 like right now, and I really hope that it's true because it needs to continue. They've done 2 seasons already.
I'm not sure how I missed that because I usually try to watch a lot of the stuff that Netflix, pushes out if it's like a Netflix original or if they decide to pick it up from some other like channel. Then I always try to watch it because I love what they do with their other properties that they have.
Right. It is really phenomenal, especially if you enjoy historic fiction. If you enjoyed Vikings, you'll definitely like this. It's really well done. I mean, I can't say enough about it. It's just great.
I was going to ask you the question of, well, who would like this show? And you answered with Vikings. And
Well,
I've
there you
heard Vikings
go.
is another good show.
Yeah, anyone who likes historic fiction, like for example, Outlander or Vikings, Robin Hood, anything generally in that vein, Game of Thrones. That anybody that likes those should definitely check out Last Kingdom.
Awesome. And do you have a favorite character in the show, or
Oh,
like a
Uhtred,
favorite?
hands
Uhtred?
down. Oh, I love him. He's amazing.
And there's only the 2 seasons so far, so I can't ask you your favorite season.
Yeah, both of them. I love the way they opened too. In the first episode, they basically summarized the time in his childhood when the incident first happened, when when the Danes were invading, and they captured. The writers did a really good job of taking the story and condensing it and making it good for the screen.
That's awesome. I love when book translations just get translated so well into like a movie or a TV series, and especially the ones where you're like, oh wow, like they're really going all in on getting that book right.
Yeah, they're doing a really, really good job. There's a couple little details that happen in the second season that I'm not entirely sure why they changed so much instead of sticking with the original story, which was just as good. But it works, and it does move the story along well.
Awesome.
And I can't tell you because you haven't seen it yet. You have to see it first.
Just add that onto my list
Add that to the list.
Supernatural. At least Last Kingdom would be a little bit easier to get through instead of the.
It's too fast. It is too fast. I need more. You hear me, Netflix?
Make more of the Last Kingdom. It will not end.
I hold on to hope, because why would Netflix have picked it up from BBC if they weren't going to move into a third season, right?
Exactly. Like that would be a waste of money, right?
Exactly. Happy thoughts.
Just
happy
thoughts. Now, another fandom that you're into, which is how you and I got to know each other on Twitter, is through tabletop gaming.
Very much so.
How did you get into tabletop gaming?
Well, my gateway drug was LARPing Vampire the Masquerade with a group of friends. And that was it. I was all in after that. And about a year later, I had a group of friends that had a regular gaming night, and they invited me. They were playing AD&D. This was a while ago. And I just fell truly, madly, deeply in love. It was such a welcome break from reality, from every day, from going to work and going home and doing this and doing that, and I get to go and sit with my friends for however many hours and be a grown-up playing pretend. And it was just amazing. And unfortunately, that group kind of fizzled out, and it wasn't until almost 4 years ago that I met some new friends, and they said, "Hey, you want to start a gaming group?" And naturally, I jumped up and down and went, "Yes, yes, 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 yes!" And that's it. So we've been gaming, at least 4 nights a month ever since.
That is awesome. Like I love that you got into like Vampire LARP, because that's the one thing I could never do live action. That was never my thing. It's like I can do the table, and now I can do it at a computer, but I just can't do the live action stuff.
It was really fun. I would absolutely do it again. And I think not having any preconceived notions really helped me out, because I just went down with my friend. I'm like, all right, I'll pretend to be a vampire. That sounds like fun. Why not? I absolutely adore Anne Rice's vampire series. And so I thought, well, this will be great, So we played, there's this place called Old Town in Kissimmee, Florida. And the leader of the group was an employee at one of the shops. And so they had special permission to play after hours at Old Town, which is this great big touristy sort of a shopping area outdoors. And so we took over every night. Well, not every night, once a week. And some people dressed up, some people didn't, but it was a lot of fun.
That's awesome. I always I'm like, man, that'd be so cool, but I'm just in that little turtle shell of keeping myself into like the side of the table, and okay, I got my dice and my book and my paper, and okay, I'm good. Like I don't have to act things out.
Sort of. Yeah. There's no getting up and acting. You're voice acting, you know?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't have to dress up. Like I could be bummy if I need to be.
Yep. I don't know. You could be a bummy vampire. That's a thing.
It is a thing. I have played many a bummy vampire.
Awesome.
What are some of your favorite gaming systems or gaming settings that you've played?
Eberron is at the top of the list. Forgotten Realms close behind. And I haven't yet had the opportunity to sort of dip my toes into any of the other ones. But I'm looking forward to it. I hope I do get a chance to do so.
What is it about Eberron? Because I know a lot of people don't really know Eberron too much.
That's unfortunate.
It is. It came out like in 3.5 D&D, and then 4th edition had it too. But I know that it's not like the one that is at the forefront of a lot of people's minds when they think of traditional Dungeons and Dragons.
Which is crazy to me. Absolutely crazy.
So what is it about Eberron that you love?
It's so very well thought out. I love the way that you can quite literally play any flavor of game anywhere in the world, depending on what you want to do. You can place your characters in so many different locations, and your game will have a completely different flavor.
That is one of the things that I love, because you can have an adventure in the City of Towers, and you could conceivably just do an entire game set there without ever leaving.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
And then you've got like the island called Zendrick, where it's basically like, who knows what's going to happen, because you go into the jungle and you could be run over by like dinosaurs or giants or drow, or all sorts of stuff goes there. You got the Mournland,
UNT
where
and
like
Quarry and all sorts of exciting things, and other adventurers.
Yeah, that setting is like, and I always tell people, I fell in love with it because I saw a halfling riding on a velociraptor, and that was it for me.
Yeah, that was so cool. When we first so one of my friends that I've been gaming with for these whole 4 years, Chad, he's also he's our sound guy on the Chaotic Goodness podcast. And he said, "Hey, you want to play Eberron?" I'm like, okay. Never heard of Eberron, but sure, I'll give it a try. And so I created a changeling, rogue, of course. She was an arcane trickster. The farther we got into it, and the more that I started to understand how the game was designed, how the world was designed, it just kind of blossomed for me like okay, I see how this works now. And the more that I started to explore it and look into it, I thought, oh my gosh, I want to DM a game here too. And so that happened. Yeah, I've been playing Eberron pretty consistently and for these past 4 years. And I don't want to stop.
Never stop at playing Eberron. It will live forever.
Yes, please. We could use a 5e update, just saying.
Hint, hint, nudge, nudge,
hint,
wink, wink.
Hint.
Now, as far as tabletop gaming goes, like what does it mean to you? Like, what does it do for you as far as like, people do all sorts of stuff, but what does gaming mean for you? Like when you sit down at the table or you play it online or whatnot?
It's stress release. It's taking a break from life. Things are so stressful. Adulting is hard, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So to be able to sit with your friends and just engage in this fantasy world and be someone else for a little while. And for me, being a DM is an excellent creative outlet. I'm a writer, and to be able to create, kind of play God with with these people, with these PCs, and to know everything that is going on in the world, and to be able to sit back and watch them act and think to myself, okay, well, this is what they've done. Well, how is the world going to respond? And play with that and move on that and keep growing and developing the story. It's such a fabulous stress relief, and it's recharging to be able to go back and get back into the groove of daily life.
Yeah, it's that thing where you sit down and you're just like, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna live through this character, and we're going to
Mhm.
go on an adventure, and we're going to go
Mhm.
solve this problem, and it's like just for those few hours, it's just nice to get away.
Yeah, you get to be a hero or a villain for a few hours, and it's so worthwhile. Such a great way to recharge.
Now, beyond like your traditional like Dungeons and Dragons, and I know you talked about the Vampire LARP, are there any other game systems that you love or that you like in
Yeah.
playing?
Obviously we love Uncharted Worlds. Sean's creation is really amazing. We're very much enjoying playing with it, and it's really different from the other systems that I've used. It's not nearly as rule heavy. It's very much an improvisational game with structure, and all of the players at the table have complete control over what happens. And it's really fascinating to have that creative freedom. I'm really enjoying that quite a bit. And Shadowrun, I adore. That one is quite the opposite. It is very is not even a big enough word. Significantly rules heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And the manuals are very difficult to wade through. But once you get used to it and figure out how it works, Shadowrun is a really, really fun world to play in.
Do you when you play, do you gravitate towards like, and I know, traditionally like I would ask for like for Dungeons and Dragons, like do you have like a favorite race or a favorite class or like a favorite kind of concept that you generally like stick to when you're playing?
Oh, absolutely. I play a lawful good person in my daily life every day, so I typically tend to veer towards evil characters.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah, I like to play with my dark side. It's kind of a relief a little bit to play, to be the mischievous rogue, somebody that has little more flexible scruples. It makes it a lot of fun, and my characters have a tendency to be very spontaneous and impetuous, and get into a lot of trouble, which makes it a lot of fun around the gaming table. My friends never know what I'm going to come up with. It's very entertaining. Yeah, I had them all. I had them in tears, laughing so hard, like tears streaming down their face, red faces, laughing so hard. At our last recording session, it was pretty amazing. I was very pleased with myself.
Now, do you prefer to play or do you prefer to DM or do you like both?
I like them both. I really do. They both fulfill different needs. Where with DMing, it's a creative outlet, and with playing, it's more of a personal outlet, I guess.
That that is very reasonable. Um, Now, one of the things, especially for the Women in Role Playing Month that I'm doing for the podcast, is one of the questions I'd love to ask and get your opinion or thoughts or comments on is if somebody, if a woman or a girl is listening to this podcast, what would you say to them if they're on the fence of like wanting to role play? Like, what would be your advice to them?
My advice would be to not listen to the guys that try to act like gaming is all for them. When in doubt, create your own gaming group. Make it happen. And don't let anybody stop you or try to tell you that women shouldn't game, because that's nonsense. Why should women not play pretend as adults? We played pretend as kids. Does it suddenly stop? No, of course not. Why shouldn't we get to be creative? So yeah, get out there and do it. Make yourself a character that you would love, that you think would be fun to pretend to be, to escape as for a little while.
Do you have a favorite character of yours that you want to be like, I love this character because?
Oh man, honestly, my current favorite is Flossie. Flossie is a blast to play, and she is my character on Chaotic Goodness. And she is a psychic assassin who really loves Shakespeare, and she's made herself out of scraps of armor that she found on her space station. She made herself like an Elizabethan style doublet that functions as her armor. And she's got springy red curly hair, and she's very perky and gets into a lot of trouble. And she is so much fun to play. And she was partly inspired by one of my previous characters from Chad's Eberron game. And her name was Zarya. And Zarya was a changeling, arcane trickster, who also got into a lot of trouble and never followed the plan, ever. And
awesome.
Flossie was also partly inspired by River Song. And she's named after her too, interestingly. I took the German words for river and song, Fluss and Lied, and turned it into Flossie Lied. So she's named after River Song.
Neat.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, you've mentioned the podcast a few times, and I'd love to know more about it. So tell me what is Chaotic Goodness?
So the Chaotic Goodness podcast is actual play, and we use Uncharted Worlds, which is a system developed by Sean Gomez, and it is very much a space opera, and it has a core set of rules that help you to determine what effect your actions have on your universe. The characters fully create the universe, so there's not any canon to follow. You create it as you go along, which is really neat. It's fun to have that much control over it, to be able to say, well, my character comes from this planet and I have created it. And this is what it's like there, and this is, and you can create every little detail if you want to.
What would be like your pitch to people for them to listen to Uncharted Worlds, or not to Chaotic Goodness?
If you like to laugh at space morons, which is what we've affectionately dubbed ourselves, give it a listen. We are a really interesting crew. We have a doctor that's a pharmaceutical rep, and also a skeptic. He doesn't believe that Flossie is actually psychic. We have a pilot who is kind of like a Shadowrun face. He's kind of our front man. He does all the talking for us, and the flying. And then we have our fighter, kind of quote unquote, and that's Rin, and she's our brute strength. And then we have Gideon, and he is the engineer. He's the tech, and he has an AI sidekick and it's a really fun dynamic, and that's a lot of the feedback that we've gotten has been about the interpersonal dynamic between the characters. And if you like space opera type things like Firefly, Star Wars, that sort of thing, Star Trek, you'd really like it.
Very cool. I'm going to have to, it's on my list of things to catch up on. It's just, you know how it is with podcasts where you have so many and then
There's
not
so
enough
many good
hours in the
ones.
day.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And then it's like, well, and I know, because you do the Chaotic Goodness podcast and I do the podcast over here. And I'm like, man, if I want to listen to something, I'm giving up time for like editing something or watching something to catch up on TV shows. It's like, it's always that balance.
Right. Yeah, it's hard because there's so much entertainment out there that you have to kind of pick and choose. So I bounce around with a few different podcasts, and there's so many more that I really want to enjoy, but I have so many that I'm kind of flipping through at the moment that it's challenging. It's hard. I want to show them all the love, but I don't have enough hours in the day.
Exactly. Like that's the thing is that I've had friends talk to me about like the Adventure Zone or Critical Role, and they're like, "Have you listened to it? Have you watched it?" I'm like, "No, like I don't have like that's a huge investment of time
Mm-hmm.
to get through on top of like, oh, well, I want to listen to like the actual plays that I currently listen to, or I want to listen to the other podcasts that I listen to, or just it's like how many hours is that to just try to get through? I don't know if I could
Right.
do it.
I'm on like episode 15 of Critical Role. I am way behind. So I'll listen to that for a little while, and then I'll pop around to some of the other ones. Like I've been listening to like DM Block and Manifest Zone,
Mm-hmm.
obviously Tales from the Fandom.
Yay!
Yay! And I've been poking around with a few of the different podcasts that are, that we're kind of sharing material with. We're sharing bumpers and such.
Mm-hmm.
And really enjoying that so very much.
Yeah, it's definitely there is if you're interested in any type of game system or game mechanics, or you want a serious game over like a funny game, or maybe you're looking for comedy, there is an actual play podcast out there for
Absolutely.
everybody.
Absolutely. Yeah, ours tends to be on the funny side. We're trying to grow the character stories and relationships, so we kind of touch on things that are a little bit more serious here and there. But yeah, it's mostly chaos because that's who we are. And the first, we're brand new podcast, and we're learning as we go. So the first couple of episodes, the sound's a little bit painful, but I beg you to stick with it because as you get further along, we've increased our audio quality significantly, and now it's set and it's really nice.
I totally understand, because as we're recording this, we're slowly launching the actual play that I run, the Tales from the Five Nations, and I've had to put that at the beginning of the episodes. It's like, please bear with us as our audio as we're getting used to like even recording, because two of the people that play, they've never done anything recording wise, and it's just like, every time we record, it's like, okay, let's figure out how we can fix this to make it better for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. We from the get-go, we set on to improving audio quality as fast as possible because we want people to enjoy it. That's the whole point, is to entertain people, because we have had so much fun the past 4 years. And we crack ourselves up. We have a great time when we're gaming, and we thought, well, let's try a podcast. Maybe other people will think it's funny too. Let's make some people smile.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems to be working. We've had some great feedback, and people are definitely being entertained, which is what we wanted. So we're gonna keep on keeping on.
I always think back to, man, I wish we had microphones and were recording game sessions back in the late 90s and early 2000s for all the epic game sessions that like my group was a part of. And
Mm-hmm.
oh, it would have been just so much fun to just even just to listen to them for personal pleasure at this point.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I know. That would be fantastic. It's fun to go back through my notes and flip through, especially for for our Eberron games, which have just been hysterical. Like in Chad's game, we were chasing some baddies through Sharn, and they were on an airship. And so, we look around and, there's an air taxi and we're like, oh shit, well, let's get in there. So, we jump in, and of course, none of us have any clue how to operate this thing. This is not what we do, you know? And so, and naturally we rolled horribly, absolutely horribly. And Chad's like, oh man, you failed that roll. The airship, the taxi turns upside down and the rope gets wrapped around your leg and you're dangling behind it as it's flying upside down and spinning, and roll your decks. And it was just this complete mess, and I don't know how we survived. There were rings of Featherfall that were used, or no, tokens. We're in Eberron, tokens of Featherfall that we ended up burning, and we ended up crashing into a tower. And Chad's like, well, you crashed into an orphanage, and and so our cleric jumps from the wreckage of the little airship, and he jumps up and he goes, "Happy birthday, Timmy!" And it was, and Chad's like, "Oh my gosh, the kids are staring at you like you're crazy." And so we we handed him some coin and ran out of there really fast. That was fun. That was a great game. There were some really good characters.
There, you say were, like, did they die or just the game faded away?
Well, actually, that game ended with us actually causing the morning.
Dun dun dun
dun dun dun. Yeah, we he had us. There were what was it? They were illithids. So there was this temple. Gosh, it's been so long. Chad, don't kill me. So and we were underneath the Mournland, and we went back in time, but we didn't know it, and it was very confusing. And so we ended up, and we had a mission. We were supposed to. There were these cylinders all around this thing, and of course Zarya was like, "Oh well, I'm just gonna empty the cylinders," and Chad's like, okay. And so she ended up going and emptying some of the cylinders, and halfway through it, one of the other characters was like, weren't we supposed to save those? We're like, oh crap. And we ended up we pulled a lever, and then boom, in the morning happened, and so it was bad. It did not end well.
Don't press the red button.
Yeah.
What does that button do?
It was all Zarya's fault.
Now we know. The game setting has been solved.
We solved the morning. That was a good game. I didn't really want it to stop. Then I started DMing my own Eberron game after that, and it was a high seas adventure, and they were being tricked into traveling away from where they should have been. There was prophecy that they didn't know about, that some of the people involved were trying to keep them away from the area where the prophecy said that they should be fixing and doing and changing things, and so they're going farther and farther and farther away. And so they were going to Arganessen, and they got there and they started talking to the dragon that they were meant to talk to, and we got ready to, and they figured out that they had been tricked this whole time. And then the game ended up fizzling out because some of the players left the game. So we were right on the cusp of Act 2, and it was
oh, that's
well,
not
shoot.
Good.
But it was a lot of fun though. We had a great time. They got their hands on a deck of many things at one point, and they actually used it as an execution method on some pirates um, in the middle of the ocean, where they had the pirates lined up on the deck and they forced them to draw a card. And then
Oh
if
my
they drew
goodness.
something that got them treasure, they took the treasure and like keelhauled the pirate. And if they drew something that like made something bad happen, they was just like, "Oh, sorry, guy." I
That is the
never did I think that they would do that. But I love game breakers. I love game breakers.
that's
Everybody
a
says,
fascinating
"Oh,
thing.
never ever use the deck of many things. That's a game breaker, this and that." I'm like, Psh, I'm going to throw that in there. I like that. I like to see what kind of chaos they cause.
Yeah, that is something I've never heard of using before in that method, and that's so ingenious.
Right? It's great.
It is great. Oh my gosh. Now I just had to ask, like, for you as a player or a DM, and especially with the Eberron setting, because I love it so much, like I'll always go back to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's your favorite kind of story to either play in or run in Eberron? Because again, like we talked about, there's so many things that you can do. Like, do you have like that favorite, like you're like, oh man, I love stuff like airships and traveling all over, or like street gang type stuff in Sharn, or adventuring in Zendrick? Like,
So that's I started a play by post recently with the same group that with the Chaotic Goodness group, and that's exactly what I'm trying to accomplish with this game, where these characters actually live in Stormreach, and because I wanted to have that sort of Indiana Jones kind of a feel, because Zendrick is just ripe for that kind of adventure. Going out and finding the treasure, because it's a great big dungeon. The whole thing is a great big dungeon, you know?
mm-hmm.
And so I created basically a very fancy adventurers guild, and it's called the Dragon Forged. And it's run by two dragonborn monks, and the headquarters is called the Crucible. And so these characters are seekers, is what they call them. And so basically they take jobs, so people from around the area or from other continents even can come in and hire them, because these are the elite. These are the elite adventurers of Zendrick. They have all the training and all of that. And so whenever they go out on a job, they get this cool little bonus gift. They get I give them a handy haversack that has some basic common and uncommon magic items. Like they have foldable boat, they've got an immovable rod, a rope of climbing, some goodberry wine, some eternal rations. So they've got coin pouches with 50 gold apiece, so that they can supply themselves and get some food or whatever it is they need. And that's their sort of starting bonus for each job. And so right now they're getting ready to head out into the jungles to find a quarry outpost and retrieve a spearhead that belongs. A shaft was found by a previous adventuring party, and so they're trying to sort of reunite the two pieces for an antiquities dealer, for Valexa, actually, the antiquities dealer. And
Very nice.
So I'm interested to see how that turns out.
What's interesting about like Eberron and Zendrick is that, like, in some of the stuff that's being put out now, like by Wizards, especially in I'll have to say it, like Tomb of Annihilation.
Mm-hmm.
When I read it and heard all about it, I was like, wait a minute, that's totally Zendrick. Like, that's Zendrick, but
yes.
it's got Forgotten Realms like laid on top of it.
That is exactly what I thought.
And they have that opening in the book where if you're playing an Eberron game, you can change this city, like you can change this city to Stormreach, and you you can just change some of the flavor instead of like these type of races, you find these type of races. I'm like, this is totally Eberron right here. Just call it like just call it Zendrick, the World Book.
Yeah, right? Yep.
Oh man, I hope sometime this year, or maybe not this year because it'd be a turnaround time that might not be possible. But this year, next year, like give me some 5th edition Eberron stuff. I don't care if it's just like
amazing.
I don't care if it's just like one book and then they open it up to people to actually write and make adventures with. Like that's what I want. Like give that to me.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Forgotten Realms is a great place to start. It's a nice, cozy, high fantasy place that people are familiar with. And it's great. And it's really smart that they started with revamping the franchise, essentially, with that. And I really, really hope that they choose Eberron for the next world to update.
I hope so, because it deserves it.
No kidding.
Now, if people have listened to this podcast episode, either the full episode or the special Women in Gaming Month that we're doing, what are the best places for people to find you or your podcast or any kind of social media?
Our podcast is available pretty much anywhere where you can go to download your favorites. I personally listen on Podbean. You can also go directly to our website, which is chaoticgoodnesspodcast.com. You can also find us on Twitter. We actually have Twitter accounts for our PCs. So you can actually interact directly with the characters if you want to. We thought that would be fun. And so far, it's been pretty entertaining. So I can be found at Is It Wine 30 Yet? And my PC is Flossie Lead.
Awesome. And I'll make sure to have the links to the podcast and the Twitters and everything else, so that way you can get everyone who's listening can just easily click on it and take a look.
Sounds great.
And yeah, that totally threw me off guard, like the character Twitter, because I'd started like, okay, when people follow me, I'm going to thank them for their follow and just encourage them to check out this podcast. And you're like, oh, well, that's me
by
too.
The way.
by the way,
you're talking to my player character.
But that is definitely a cool idea. Like that's something that
Thanks.
That is neat. I don't think I've seen that before, is just having characters out there for people to interact with like that.
Thanks. We thought it would be really really amusing. And so we honestly hope it catches on. We hope, more people realize that they can do that. And we strongly encourage interaction from listeners. We want people to send us jump points. We want people to interact with the player characters and send us feedback. We read all feedback on our episodes. So you hear that? Send us stuff.
And again, links to that to the site and everything else will be there, so that way you can send them stuff.
Yes, please.
And Kim, I just want to thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to record with me, not only for the regular full-length Tales from the Fandom episode, but also to be a part of the Women in Role-Playing Month that I'm doing in June.
Absolutely my pleasure. It's so enjoyable to talk to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to Tales from the Fandom. Subscribe to us on iTunes or your podcast app of choice. Follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Tales from the Fandom to see photos, links, leave feedback, and check out upcoming guests. If you'd like to be a guest, email David at talesfromthefandom@gmail.com.